Anyway, so I thought, all right, Phryne is a good name. Phryne was in Herodotus' Histories, which I bought when I was 12 from the Footscray op shop. The op shop lady, Mrs. Sheila, what was her name? Mrs. Darcy used to let me go in the morning when the shop opened at 9 o'clock on Saturdays and read as much as I could through all her books till the shop shut at 12, in which case I had to buy one. But it only cost me 10 cents, and if I didn't like it, I could bring it back the next week. So, and this op shop had really interesting books in it. You know, obviously the remains of someone's classical library. So when I picked up one morning, one was Aubrey de Selincourt's translation of Herodotus' Histories. Herodotus being my favourite ancient Greek historian, a terrible gossip. And he's always saying things like, and this was the song that they were singing at the time in Susa. You know, I need to know those things. So in it, he mentions a woman called Phryne, who was the model for Apelles' Aphrodite. She was so beautiful. She was so rich that she offered to rebuild the walls of Thebes, provided she could put a sign on them saying, "The walls of Thebes ruined by time, rebuilt by Phryne the hetera." A hetera is a companion, a courtesan, not a prostitute. Heteras take lovers, and when they run out of money, they take another lover. And what appealed to me while I was thinking of her later on the tram was she was charged with entering the sea during the Eleusinian Mysteries, which is heresy or blasphemy. In any case, the punishment for it is to be stoned to death. So she was tried before a jury of Athenians, all of whom, of course, were male. You just imagine you're male. And her counsel, she wasn't allowed to speak, of course, so her counsel was trying to think of something to say, because he'd done all the usual things that you do for, you know, criminal matters. He'd done, it wasn't us, we weren't there. If it was us and we were there, we didn't do it. If it was us and we were there and we did it, we didn't mean it. If it was us and we were there and we did it, we're sorry. None of those had worked. And he thought, if I don't come up with something, the most beautiful woman in Greece is going to be killed, and it's going to be my fault. So he seized hold of her garment, which was a chiton held on by two brooches, ripped it off, leaving her standing naked before this male jury, and said, a classic ancient Greek argument, could anyone this beautiful have done anything wrong? They all said, acquit her instantly, and we want her phone number. So I thought Phryne would be perfect, and I didn't know, since I only thought I'd ever write 2 books, I didn't know I was setting myself up for a lifetime of explaining how to say it. Then I thought, all right, the only thing I can think of that I've got a lot of arcane knowledge about that will impress English lit people, since I never learned postmodernism once I left university by the time postmodernism came in. So I cannot produce Baudrillard or any of those useful people to explain myself. So I thought, all right, I can do, on the other hand, I've got a Welsh background, I can do Arthurian cycles till whole herds of cows come home. And what I'll do is give her an Arthurian name. And one of the main character in the Arthurian cycle is Le Roi Pêchonneur, the sinner king, who's also the fisher king, the wounded king who can never be healed. So I thought I'd put him in. So then there was also the fact that you could say that detectives were fishers of men, that a fisher is actually quite a good, draw out Leviathan with an hook kind of thing. Plus you can also say that the street where if you were a lady in the 20s and you wanted to really learn to dance the tango, you went to La Rue du Chat qui Pêche, the street of the fishing cat, in the left bank in Paris, where you could meet Georges Santin, who would teach you a tango that would stun audiences. All of this, coincidentally, I'd only learned about because a friend of mine came back from Paris with a gentleman's handbook dated 1927. So I thought, all right, Fisher. Her name is Phryne Fisher, and she looks like the lady in the cyclamen dress. So I knew who she was and what she looked like before I got off the tram. And after that, I had no control over her whatsoever. The first book was called Cocaine Blues. I had to write it twice because it wasn't long enough, so I had to put in a subplot. And after that, all the Phryne books have 2 plots. That just worked out that way. It's an easier way of writing it. It's also good because I could drive the readers mad with frustration by leaving one plot at one point and going back to the other plot. And my hero is Dorothy Sayers. So every time you read a Phryne book, you'll read a chunk of original research, because I also love original research. So the new Phryne book, this one, has got all the memories I can find, plus an awful lot of information about Allenby's march to Jerusalem. One of my great uncles was in it, Donald, known as Doody, poor man. I had his bandolier on my desk while I was writing it. And my cat Belladonna, who accompanies me with all the time while I'm writing, found it very comfortable to sleep in the middle. So she's obviously a leather kitty. And you're a very nice audience, and if you're very good, I'll tell you the story of this sort of shoplifting dog. Yes. So now it's time to ask me questions. What would you like to know?
When you visualised Tiny on the tram, did you have anyone in mind? Had you seen anyone?
Yeah, she looks like my sister Janet, or indeed like my best friend Nola. She had the black hair cut in a cap. Janet and both of them have a pale, longish sort of face, which was very fashionable for the very deco, but not very modern. And they're both small. You know, my mother is 5 foot. My sister's 5'2". I'm 5'4". Somebody has to breed legs back into the Greenwood family, but it isn't going to be me. Yeah, so I knew what she looks like. Once I knew what she looked like, she just walked in. And I tried terribly hard at one point that somebody said, you must have a plot, you must have a plan, you write. Because I just write books in this totally irrational fashion. You write from where you dream, not from where you think. Thinking is to do with working the computer or the typewriter or picking up the pencil and forming the letters and all that sort of stuff. That's got nothing to do with actually creating the story. And it forms, I think, in the back of your head. I suspect that if I didn't write novels, I'd be completely insane, because I've got a B movie running in the back of my head all the time. I haven't got it at the moment because I just finished a new Corinna book 3 days ago. So what I am is going, float, 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 float. It's a very nice feeling, slightly lightly stoned, you know. And I haven't got an idea in my head at the moment. It's a very nice feeling, but you know, I'm completely empty. I've written out everything I've got, but that won't last. It's as though you've sort of dipped right down to the bottom of the well, and then you just let it fill up again. And Franny will come in, sit on the corner of the desk like a gasper, and say, "Whoa, what are we telling a story about now, dear?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, come in, sit down." And as I said, at one point, I thought I ought to do this properly. I ought to write, you know, because I always thought there was a proper way of writing a novel, whereas there isn't. I mean, if you need to write your novel in 2-hour stretches, wearing nothing but a Panama hat and a few selective streaks of paint, drinking pina coladas throughout, then that's the way to do it. It's not going to be good for your liver, but as long as it's a good book, it doesn't matter. You know, some people get up early in the morning. Anthony Trollope said, you know, 4 hours a day will produce as much as any man should write. He used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, write till 9 o'clock and go to work. He was obviously a man of iron. I've never produced a sentence worth reading before 3:30 in the afternoon, and usually when I'm writing I start around then-ish, work until dinner, and work all night till 3 in the morning. And then it's very nice writing at night, because if you don't have to get up in the morning, because it's very quiet, and if there's a phone call, you need to answer it. It's important, you know. You don't get all and it's quiet, and it's nice to have a cat. Bella, for instance, I've always had a cat sitting next to me. I was distraught when my last cat, Kara, died at 19, because she'd sat with me through all those years, you know, all those books. And then I went to fetch, I thought I'd go, after a year, I thought I really need a cat, so I went to the local vet who had kittens to sell. I put my hand into the cage of cats looking for this beautiful blonde one at the back, and this little black cat went grab and sunk all her claws into my wrist. And David said, "I think you better have that one. I'll buy her, should I ever do touch her." She's only about this big, but she's very determined and perfectly black. I'd never had a black cat. So after we managed to get her undone, we took her home. She spent 2 days hiding under my bed, and then another 3 days hiding behind the pillow on my bed, on the basis that this is a scary universe. She's a complete, total princess. But as soon as I start writing, she jumps up onto the filing cabinet and sits there, starting off like a very sort of, you know, upright sort of cat, and then gradually gets to a sleepy cat, and then gets to a very sleepy cat. Then she jumps down after every 2 hours and hits the caps lock on my... I know you're not going to believe me, but this is all true. She hits the caps lock so that I type a whole paragraph of capitals and I have to stop. So I stand up and do my hand exercises, go make some coffee, and a few treats for the beautiful feline companion. She loves these green French cat treats that are called Petit Mouchon pour les chatons minots, the cutest kittens, little mouthfuls for the cutest kittens. She obviously knows what's written on it. And